Hi folks.
Hi folks.
Mike and Tam here with you in Gainesville, Georgia. Behind me, this historic cotton mill was the site of a horrific tragedy in 1903. Spend the next few minutes with us here on this Saturday before Halloween as we tell you a truly grim bedtime story. June 1st, 1903 would start off pretty much as any other summer day here in Georgia. It was muggy out, and it promised to be a hot one all day long, especially for the folks working in this cotton mill. The forecast had predicted not so much as a drop of rain that day, so everyone went off to work exactly as they had every other day. By mid-morning, the weather conditions had changed a bit. It was sprinkling a little. No one thought anything about it. Perhaps it would cool things down. It would have been welcome that time of year. However, by noon, the skies had grown considerably darker. In fact, the reports coming out of Forsyth County and Gwinnett County of hail falling the size of hen's eggs. The storm would come out of the south this direction, following basically the line of the railroad tracks if it snaked through this part of Gainesville. Sometime between 12:30 and 12:40 that day, as witnesses would later claim, they noticed what appeared to be a large plume of smoke coming from the southerly direction of the railroad track. Many of them thought it was simply a locomotive with a full head of steam coming fast, and it was traveling fast. By 12:45 that day, the managers inside the mill realized what they were facing. A tornado was bearing down on them. They started evacuating the building, but by then it was too late. This was a very noisy building with multiple floors, and getting the word to all the corners of the building required somebody going and delivering it to each workstation. There just wasn't enough time. There would be another tornado that would come through 33 years later in 1936. It would prove much more damaging, but the damage caused by that later tornado would not be nearly as poignant as what happened here. You see, this cotton mill behind us employed, at the time, 600 children between the ages of 8 and 16 years old. Child labor laws at that time were mostly non-existent. The ones that did exist were mostly ignored. It was a time of grinding poverty. There were no social safety nets for people who were starving. Many times, as much as it might hurt mom or dad, if they wanted their child to eat, they sent them here to the mill. Children were valued employees at the mill because they were small. You see, the smaller your employee, the more equipment you can crowd into a building. Some of the children would spend all day climbing on the equipment, making sure it worked, keeping the textiles moving through it. It was a hot, sweaty, miserable job, and it was dangerous. There were a lot of ways to get hurt, maimed, killed as a child doing this job. But none of it would be as bad as what happened on June 1st, 1903. The majority of children working in the building at the time would have been on the very top floor. That's where the spinning room was. When the tornado hit that day, it peeled the roof off of this building. Like some kind of monstrous hand, the vortex reached down into the top floor of the building and lifted children out, pulled them up into the air, and threw them down onto the ground. Those employees that did manage to escape fled here into the courtyard of the building. What they didn't know is that the vortex has also lifted up a standpipe out of the building, a pipe that extended from the bottom to the top floor, filled with water to put out one of the fires that were likely to take place in this hot, machine-filled mill. Pipe was lifted high into the air, and when it fell, many more children lost their lives when they were crushed to death immediately. It was reported to the press that there were 100 deaths that day, but most people believe it was much more, that 100 was all that was reported. There was at least that many or more injured. Now this building itself, of course, is rumored to be haunted, and those people that have been allowed in to investigate have reported readings that were off the charts. But they will prosecute anyone, and there have been people who have been caught trying to do any kind of urban exploring or investigating in this building without any permission. I was able to follow the railroad tracks in through the back gate to get closer to the building, but there were video surveillance cameras everywhere. I'm almost certain I was caught on at least 2 of them. So we're going to get out of here while the getting's good. Of the perhaps 100 children that died that day, not all of them were able to be identified. Not all of them were claimed. You have to remember that back in those days of the Industrial Revolution, orphans would rent themselves out. Some of these bodies went unclaimed, and they were buried in a mill cemetery not far from here, one of the locations that are rumored to be haunted. Behind us is Gainesville Mill Cemetery. Behind it, and all around us actually, is Gainesville Memorial Airport, a private airport. What's left of the cemetery is right here behind us. This is where many of the folks who died while working in the mills and living in the mill villages around them, this is where they were interred. Don't be fooled by the amount of gravestones that are here. There were a lot of people buried here in unmarked graves. The new ghost app I'm using here takes the EVP sounds that it hears and tries to build words out of them. Let's see if we get any words. Is there anyone here that can hear me? Hi.
Hockey.
Hockey. Did you play hockey? Can you say something? Weekend. Yes, it is the weekend. This is Saturday, actually. Thank you for acknowledging that. This is the weekend. See the airport hangars back there? Some kind of tower related to the airport. You see it's all fenced in. The cemetery's fenced in all the way around by the airport. Dollar. Was somebody trying to earn $1? Were you trying to make $1 at the mill? I've enabled the ghost box feature. Hello. Weekend. Did you hear it say weekend again?
I didn't.
It said weekend again, and a moment ago, the EVP also said weekend. And this is coming from an entirely different set of principles to get this. So twice now, through the EVP, we got the word weekend while we were walking through here. Tammy heard it, Tammy saw it on here. We got it on the camera, should have it on the camera. Then later when we turned on the ghost box, which basically just scans radio frequencies, looking for blasts of words, the only word that I recognized out of all that gibberish that was coming through was one. It was also weekend. This is Saturday. It's the weekend before Halloween. So the next feature this particular app, highly rated app, contains is SLS technology. It's supposed to be using the facial recognition software in the camera of your phone. The same thing that allows your camera to pick out faces when you're taking photographs. It's supposed to be using that to map out figures. You've seen this in ghost hunting shows, the little stick figures This is supposed to be mapping them out as well. It's weird how it reflects. Do you see that?
Yeah.
On the tombstones themselves, it's getting a hit on the tombstones. That's weird. I don't know enough about this technology to know why it's doing that, but it's getting some kind of bounce off of the tombstones. I don't think that has anything to do with paranormal. I think it's just the shape. Children, can you show yourself to me? Well, so folks, we didn't pick up anything really dramatic, but I still find it very interesting that off of the EVP, we heard the word weekend. And then a few moments later, when we turned on the ghost box that simply scans radio frequencies, the only word that we recognized that came through was also weekend. And again, folks, it's the Saturday before Halloween. And now we're going to go to the final location where paranormal phenomena associated with this 1903 tragedy is supposed to be taking place. Frequently, not just associated with this though, there are all kinds of ghosts at our next spot. And so folks, the final stop on our tragical history tour brings us to Alta Vista Cemetery, historic Alta Vista Cemetery. We've been here before. We visited the grave of General James Longstreet and some of the other older sections of the cemetery. But there's one part of the cemetery that has long been rumored by paranormal investigators to be the most haunted area. We're going to give it a try. We are here at the Mausoleum. Okay, folks, we're going to try the EVP. Hello? Is there anyone here? Can you hear me? Hi. So far, we're just not having any luck. Can someone speak to me? Hello? Hello? So we didn't have any luck with the EVP here around what is supposed to be the most haunted area of Alta Vista Cemetery, around this mausoleum, which is kind of surprising. This is not the oldest section of this cemetery. Let's try the ghost box. It's hard for me to understand it. It spits out a lot of input coming through these radio stations, but let's see if we recognize anything. Just to prove to you guys again that the SLS mapping technology works, move your arms, honey. You see how it's tracking Tammy's movement. So let's see if we can find anything else. Whoa. Tammy, come here. Do you see that?
No, I didn't.
Do you see that right there?
Oh yeah, I do.
Right there inside the mausoleum. Do you see that moving?
Yes, I do.
If you can hear me in there, can you move your arms? Move your arms for me. Wow, there's something. It's tracking something in there that has arms and legs and a head shape. You are picking that up on the screen, right? Wow, there's something, some kind of movement in there.
That was freaky.
It was. Okay, the SLS is no longer picking up whatever was sitting in one of those chairs. There was something that appeared to be sitting in one of those chairs looking straight out at you and I out this window. And now, it's not there anymore. Wow. And so folks, on this weekend before Halloween, that's our little story. Tammy, what do you think of what we saw combined at the other cemetery, the Gainesville Mill Cemetery, where both the EVP and the ghost box said weekend, and this is the weekend.
Yeah, that was crazy.
And then freaky here at the most supposedly haunted place in this building. I turn on the SLS tracker, put it up against the window into the building, and it looks for all the world like something, like a child, a
Yeah,
small
yeah.
figure sitting on the front row, looking directly out at us after I had called out to any children that may be here to introduce themselves to us. And then when I turned the SLS tracker back on and put it up there, whatever was there was gone. That's enough to give you pause, if nothing else.
Yeah.
So folks, this is Mike and Tam here from Gainesville at all the sites associated with the tornado of 1903 that took the lives of so many innocent children. Until the next time, happy Halloween.